Honey, I'm going out to the garage.
Okay, don't forget the honey-do list.
Okay. See what she's got us doing today. So first on the list is pool weeds. I don't think so. No, and wait a second. I can do this one. Oh man, dang it. So the first thing I needed to do was come up with a fairly simple design that my wife loved. Preferably one that was easy to build and didn't require a crazy material list. The problem with that is I'm not the most creative crayon in the box, so I really struggle with this part of the project. And I'll be honest, it may have costed me some of my sanity. You can't even come up with a simple design. Your mom was right. You'll never be good at geography, you idiot. But then I came to, and I saw on the page before me the most glorious, simplistic Dr. Seuss wannabe drawing of a stocking holder ever drawn. And I knew I was ready to begin. So I needed 4 square pieces, and I thought an 8-inch wide, 2 6-inch wide pieces, and a single 4-inch wide piece would be a nice stair-stepping kind of design that would work good for a simple stocking post. Originally, I was going to make the decorative pieces with the 1/2-inch plywood, but some places were peeling up, and I was wanting to make something that would last quite a while. So I began digging through my tool closet, and I found this butcher block that I've had for at least 4 or 5 years that I never did anything with, and I thought now would be a perfect time to use this scrap piece for this little build. You can see it's been worked on, but I made sure to put that side face down after I put it together. The biggest thing I wanted to make sure of was I wanted exact sizes, meaning once I cut it, it would be a true 8-inch wide piece or a true 6-inch wide piece. After that was done, I just had to double check my measurements and make sure I was spot on, and that was it. So after I had measured everything out, it was time to start cutting the boards. After each cut, I measured the board to double check and make sure I still had my desired board sizes, and the reason is I wanted to make sure I had the same reveal on each board once I put it together. At least as far as the human eye could tell. It really didn't matter if it was an eighth off because that's barely noticeable from a distance, so I needed to be exact to a certain degree, but it wasn't that tough to do, and after all was said and done, I had a 1-inch reveal on the bottom and around an 1/8 inch of play on top, so like I said, it wasn't a big enough deal to worry about, and my wife, who's pretty picky about perfecting things, she didn't even notice, so I'm going to take that as a win. But realistically, as long as it looks even and it looks good, that's really all that matters. So the next thing on the list was the actual post, and the first thing I had to do was cut this down to 36 inches. This had a pretty gnarly twist in it that I cut off camera, and luckily I still had plenty of length left on it to use. Now keep in mind, I didn't want the finished post being over 4 feet tall, so I had to keep the newel cap in mind. I believe it sat at 5.5 inches tall, which worked out perfectly because the entire build ended up being around 47.5 inches in all, so I was pretty happy with that. So after everything was cut, I took a minute to dry fit everything to try and get a visual on how it will look once it's completed, and so far it's looking pretty good. Although, I'll be honest, I feel like it's kind of missing something. Oh yeah, let me go get that real quick. There we go, that looks a lot better. I'd say it's coming together quite nicely. Next up was sanding each piece. I started at 120 grit and just worked my way up to 220, and it felt super smooth, so I didn't really see the need to go any higher. After sanding, I made sure to clean up my area of all loose debris so I could prepare to prime the wood for paint. I used 1 coat of Kills 2 primer because I really didn't want the paint to start peeling after a few years. Plus, it'll help it last when I store it after the holidays. After the primer had dried, it was time to paint. I wanted a nice shiny gold, and I found this metallic gold at the hardware store that looked pretty awesome once it was dried. After the boards and newel cap was painted, I took a fine roller and rolled the post with a nice semi-gloss white. In all, I applied 2 coats and called it good. So the next morning after everything was dry, I began marking the center of each board because I wanted to use wooden dowels to reinforce the post. With these boards being fairly heavy, I felt like some extra oomph wouldn't hurt. I paired the dowels with wood glue and sunk a 3 or 3.5 inch screw behind it, and needless to say, she was pretty stout at the end of it. After it was fully assembled, I just gave it a good visual inspection and touched up any places that I thought needed it. Next on the list was to install the hardware, and then this build will be complete. So I went with these dark bronze hooks because I thought it would be a good contrast between the white and the gold. Not that it matters, it's a stocking holder made out of scrap material. In fact, I'm not sure if I've said this, but the only things I didn't have sitting around the house was the gold paint and the newel cap. Everything else I had just lying around taking up space. I think this was a pretty good use of scrap material.
Honey, I'm going outside to talk to my imaginary friends. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that build. I tried to make it as simple as possible. Just something I used, pretty much everything was scrap other than the paint and then the newel post cap. I guess that's what that's called. But everything else I had lying around for other projects that now I don't have for. So I'll have to definitely run to the store or anything like that to replenish those supplies. But like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. There's a million different ways to do these kind of projects. This is just my take, just the most simplified way I could do it. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment below how you would have done it. And other than that, I'll catch you guys on the other side.